Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 10th Annual Photoville Festival, proudly supported by our lead anniversary partner, Leica Camera USA, and today's program, Youth Artist Exchange, Looking Outwards. My name is Jasmine Chang. I am Photoville's Deputy Director, focused on our education and community projects. I really want to thank everyone, students and community members, for joining us today and for chiming in on the icebreaker. I feel like I'm getting a sense of what's out there all around New York City: squirrels, trees, neighbors, bodegas. It's really fun to hear from everyone. So I'm really excited to welcome you to this panel, as well as our 10th annual festival, which has over 80 exhibitions all across New York City, from Staten Island to Times Square, the Bronx, Queens, and Harlem. First, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are on the unceded lands of the Lenape. Photoville exhibits visual stories in public spaces across the city of New York, which is located in the traditional homelands of the Lenape, also known as the Stockbridge-Munsee Community, Delaware Tribe, Delaware Nation, and First Nations in Canada. Lenape call their homeland Lenapehoking, which includes Southern New York State, all of New Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, and Delaware. We respect and recognize those who came before us and the experiences they had to endure. We commit to understanding how history continues to inform the present and to work on how our organization can keep supporting Indigenous communities. We commit to opening up more space for members of Indigenous creative communities and providing public platforms to showcase their stories and ensuring they are compensated for their work. We encourage you all to research and read more into the history of your community and region and support Indigenous artists. Recently, our Photoville team collaborated with the Lenape Center on this living land acknowledgement and attended a workshop and are grateful for their guidance. We look forward to working with them. Before we begin, I want to thank all our amazing partners for supporting this program. We're so grateful for our marquee partners, Brooklyn Bridge Park, New York City Parks, Two Trees Management, Photo Wings, the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment, and the Dumbo Business Improvement District. And of course, our 10-year anniversary partner, Leica Camera. Photoville education programs are proudly supported in partnership by Photo Wings and the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment. We thank our year-round partner, Photo Wings, for supporting many of this year's youth exhibitions through an educator grant and for making these panels more accessible, as we'll be recording and sharing them online for many more people to watch. Now to the main event. Today, I'm really excited that we have our very first of 3 youth artist exchanges. Though many teens have graced the Photoville stage over the years, this year we decided to mix it up a little bit. We looked at the whole slate of exhibiting artists at this year's festival, and we matched youth and adult artists creating work in similar themes. We really believe that having intergenerational conversations like this can really inspire and generate lots of new ideas for the panelists as well as everyone in the audience. So to kick us off with this afternoon's conversation, I am proud and excited to introduce my colleague and our education coordinator, Jessica Ball.
Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you so much, Jasmine, for that intro, and thank you all for being here for this conversation. We are really excited today to welcome 3 artists whose work shares something in common. All of them have made images that look outward to explore and investigate their surroundings, their communities, and the pressing social issues within them. So we're going to hear from each artist individually, and then we'll come together for a dialogue about their practice, and we will also welcome you to ask questions during that time as well. So I'm going to kick off by sharing about the first exhibition, Small Details, and then we will hear from Amanda Vargas, whose work is included in this exhibition. So Small Details, I'm going to read you the description for this work. Created in community with students and teachers of Digital Arts and Cinema Technology High School, Small Details highlights acts of resistance and change through lens-based media. As minors, we are often dismissed or ignored in several sectors of our lives, yet as the next generation, we are greatly impacted by adults' collective actions. Rather than focus on our repressed voices, our show emphasizes the ways we empower our voices through photography. Each piece documents a small detail displaying moments of positive change within ourselves, our families, and our communities. By exhibiting our complex worldviews, our hope is to uplift others to reflect on the many ways they can create change. While this year has been one of the toughest, photography recentered and grounded us. Our lenses became our voice, as our voice became our language, and through that language began larger conversations. We hope this series not only inspires, but also causes action. The changes we make now are small, but as we gain more understanding of the world, we begin to build the future we want to see. The process starts now, and we are ready to take on the responsibility of shaping this world. It's worth noting that our next panelist, Amanda Vargas, is not only featured in this exhibition, but she also co-curated this alongside her classmate and her teacher. You can see this project on Pier 3 in Brooklyn Bridge Park. And now I'm going to pass it off to Amanda, who is going to share about her work.
Hello, my name is Amanda Vargas, and as said before, I co-curated the Photoville installation called Small Details with my classmate Destiny Marcion and my photography teacher, Miss Gibbons. With this collection of work from our school, we wanted to display the seemingly small things in our lives and how they can have bigger impacts on ourselves and our surroundings than they seem to. My contribution to this body of work was a triptych showing how I avoid contributing to the pollution in the Gowanus Canal, which is in close proximity to my house. I do this by recycling and using clean transportation. If we could pull up that image. Thank you. Unfortunately, the Gowanus Canal is one of the most polluted bodies of water on Earth. And there's a scrap metal plant that is it's on the water, and it contributes to a lot of that pollution. And it's from local people who are giving their metal to this scrap metal plant. So I try to avoid that as much as possible by recycling, and also the highway in the background. So I try my best to use clean transportation, such as skateboarding. This exhibition is one of the few opportunities I've had to share my work with such a large platform, and I'm so grateful because photography for me has been such an important way to communicate with people. Growing up, I never really knew how to describe what I saw around me. I would see something and the only thing I wanted to do was share it with someone else. I would start to tell other people about the little amazing things that I saw each day, but realized they were unimpressed and they were unable to see from my perspective because I was a kid with a big imagination. It occurred to me one day that with photography, I would be able to do just that. I could frame and capture images in a way that conveyed the beauty I saw in everyday objects and people. For example, if you look at the image of that flower that I named Garden, if we could pull that up. Thank you. It's a simple thing that me and my family had passed every day, but it wasn't until I took a photo or attempted to take a photo that we noticed things like the depth and the color of the petals and how frayed they were at the ends and how pretty it was. From that moment on, I kind of made it my mission to try and find a way to share these snippets of my life with other people. As I got older, I started applying more formal skills to the photos I took. And with the help of my amazing film and photography teachers, I was able to see how I could excel artistically. When I started my high school education, one of the first photography assignments I can remember was to take a portrait of someone in the class to work on framing. And this led me to try and develop these skills and work on these skills on my own. When I take photos of individuals, my ultimate goal is not only to allow the audience to see from my point of view, but to see from the point of view of the subject. When I take a portrait, I try not to alter the natural dynamic between them and their environment. While some subjects are intentionally posed in positions, such as the image displayed of my very close friend Josiah, I try to keep the expressions and body language as close to natural as possible. In this case, I simply asked him one day in the school hallway to stop and look at the camera for me. Most others are taken without the subject being aware that there is a photo taken of them. I've found that when people are unaware the image is being captured of them, a lot more of their character is shown, whether it's through their body language or natural facial expression, or even the way that they're sitting. It's more genuine to them and who they are as a person. For instance, the photo of my father sitting on the stoop with our family dog looking over him, it says a lot about who he is as a person. And because I know him personally, I can tell you that from this image, you can tell even just a little bit about him. And the silhouette of my brother walking on the beach, though I have my camera, as I often do, they didn't know I had been setting up a shot until they heard the shutter click. And quite frankly, my brother was slightly mad that I had caught him off guard, but of course he forgave me because I'm his sister and he kind of had to. What I love about these photos is you can tell something about each of them without knowing or having spoken a word to them. I feel these photos are a great representation of what I want to accomplish with my art. I hope in the future, and even now, that my photos help to inspire others to quote the name of the panel, look outwards and see beauty and complexity in their everyday lives. And I hope to inspire those of you listening to me right now to go and do the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That was fantastic. I am going to introduce you to the next project that we're going to hear from. This work is part of a larger exhibition called An Incredible Freedom. And I'll read you the description for that as well. This project began over Zoom in the fall of 2020 with students from the Eastside Photo Program. As tiny boxes of faces, some of us had never met each other in person before. We met each week through a historic election season, a global pandemic, remote / blended / hybrid / asynchronous / synchronous schooling, college applications, acceptances, rejections, and waits, and an insurrection at the Capitol, each of our personal life roller coasters, and the constant unpredictability of this time. These 12 photographers were a constant positive force, coming every week, photographing, writing, analyzing, and supporting each other. We started our spring semester examining a quote from the artist Carrie Mae Weems to guide the final project. Quote, "The camera gave me an incredible freedom. It gave me the ability to parade through the world and look at people and things very, very closely. In the midst of all the overwhelming circumstances of our time, what did these photographers feel free to look closely at? What did the camera give them permission to look and share the world with us?" And so you can see all of this amazing work on display at the Eastside Community High School. That's on East 11th Street. And now we're going to hear from Andy Cheng, who will present his work from An Incredible Freedom.
Hi, my name is Andy Chen. I am a junior in high school and I enjoy doing art. I like drawing, and I like drawing and photography. I decided to follow this idea of taking pictures of Asian Americans because of the recent racism and hate crimes that are still happening to them now. I also want to cancel the the model minority myth that is often labeled with Asian Americans, a notion that most Asians don't struggle economically or face racism. But in fact, Asian Americans are just like any other humans. I shot these photos in Flushing, New York. Okay. So for these photos, I was walking through and I saw this lady who was selling eggs, and I actually bought one of her eggs, and then I asked her if I could take a quick photo of her, and then she said yes. And as you can see in the weather, it was kind of cold, and yeah. Can we see? Okay, I was walking through and I saw this guy playing the saxophone, and he was doing really good. So I just asked him if I could take a picture of him, and he said yes. And he was really welcoming to me to take photos. And for this ones, I was walking through the train station, and I saw this old man who was sitting on the ground, and I just asking him if I could take a picture of him, and he was nice. I just told him to stay where he was, and then I told him I told him to look at me through the camera, and he said yes, and yeah, it's good. As for this one, this photo is actually from it's actually not from Flushing. It's from Chinatown, Manhattan. And I was walking through, and I saw this lady who was placing the fruits, and I just thought this moment is a great moment that shows people working. And I think this photo shows a lot about people working hard in the moment. And I think that's what we often miss when we are doing things in our daily lives. So I decided to do this project because first of all, my mom is Taiwanese and my dad is Chinese. I lived in Taiwan and China for about 10 years before I came here to the US 4 years ago. I can see clearly that the model minority myth is not true, and it's really sad for me to see Asian elders getting beaten, and also suffering from hate crimes. From doing this project, I get to use my camera to take a closer look at people and what they are doing. Photography allows me to focus on the little things in life that we often miss when we are doing our own things in daily lives. As I engage in my work, I was surprised about how good these photos I took of people look. Even though it's just normal people on the street, I think what they are doing and the background really shows a culture. I hope when people see my work, they can learn that Asian American are just like any other human beings. They work hard to sustain their lives. They are not always the people who doesn't have problems. I want to show people the truth and the other side of their lives that aren't often seen in the media. And I really thank you for looking at my photos and also spending this time with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy, for sharing about your work. And last but not least, we will take a look at the exhibition Simple Moments of an Emerging Presence, And I'll read you also the description for this work. Irma Bojorquez Geisler is a New York City-based Mexican-American photographer who became aware of her Mexican identity by living abroad, shifting between cultures while preserving her own. She has been documenting daily life within the local Mexican-American and Mexican immigrant communities from within New York City, with a focus on Staten Island since 2001. Her photographs focus on how immigrant communities bring and adapt tradition and rich culture, as well as how they establish themselves living in their adoptive country. These photographs are part of an ongoing social documentary series, Simple Moments of an Emerging Presence. And you can see Irma's work on display now on the South Beach Promenade in Staten Island. And we will now invite her to the stage to speak about this project.
Hi. Hi. It's a pleasure to be invited to talk about my work. My name is Irma Bojorquez Geisler. I'm originally from Mexico, and I have been living in New York since 1992, and I didn't do any photography in the past. I moved to Staten Island in 1992, and after 7 years living in Staten Island, I was taking a course in art, and then I saw there was a class in the dark room. So I decided to take it, and that's how initially I started taking photographs. All the photographs that I'm going to show in this here are from film, and so at the beginning I started taking photographs of landscapes for the parks, and eventually I started as the Mexican immigrant and community started emerging in Staten Island. I switched into taking portraits of this community. And this photograph is a procession during Easter time that actually all of these processions exist in Mexico. But the interesting thing here is that even if we are in Staten Island, New York, people still bring their own traditions and culture and heritage into where we live. The Mexican community are very involved in church. Most of the people are Catholic, and the church has been a very important part in their lives in giving them some support. And so there really a lot of things are happening through the church or related to it. In this photograph, I didn't, that was my first time I was photographing a procession. And as you see, they have on the side, they have a barrier, so you cannot go in. I decided to go in and try to take a photograph as all of them are walking towards me. And but it was difficult. I didn't want to be intruding in the procession or be in the way. But I was able to take this photograph, and can show that there is on the ground there's a stop sign, and which shows that we are in the United States and not in Mexico. So when people see this photograph, they think that I took this photograph in Mexico, but I point out to them that this is here in New York. This is what's happening in New York. And this is part of the life of Mexican and immigrants that are living in Staten Island are doing. We can pass to the next one. So my first photograph, it was taken outside, which many times it's easier to photograph outside than inside. And so I decided that I wanted to, as the Mexican community in the 2000, in the census of the 2000, it said that it was the Mexican immigrant community was the fastest growing community in New York. And so suddenly we started getting all of these grocery stores, bakeries, products from Mexico. And so I thought that it would be, and as I needed to produce work for my darkroom class, I started taking these photographs. So I started realizing that going to do my grocery shopping, I will see very familiar things that will take me back home. So when I went to this bakery, it's actually a bakery. Actually, before this owner, it was another owner that opened this bakery, and that was the first bakery opened in Staten Island. I have another picture, but it's not here. But so when I went into this bakery and I saw all the piñatas on top of the ceiling, I was very, very keen to take a picture of that. And the other thing that struck me is that these kind of piñatas are the original kind of piñatas that we know in Mexico. So most of the piñatas in the United States are Walt Disney characters, and they're not actually the same piñatas like we have in Mexico. These piñatas have actually a clay pot inside, and we don't put candy when we use these piñatas. I wanted to show that. Also, I wanted to show the signs that are on the wall. They were in Spanish. And so I have to move back to be able to include all of that in the photograph. At first, the lady wasn't very happy of me taking a picture of her. She will ask me, well, what are you going to do with the picture? What you want to take pictures? And so I will just tell her that I was taking a class and I needed to photograph some people, but also I told her that I wanted to photograph our community and maybe have an exhibit or show the photographs in the community so people can see themselves and reflect themselves on the photographs, and also to feel part of the community. So in this case, people were coming into the store and out, and she will have to be attending them, and I will have to be waiting there until it was a good opportunity to take this photograph. Next one, please. As I mentioned before, Mexican community are very involved in the church, and so they started making all of these celebrations all happening in the church or outside the church. And this photograph is showing a person who is from the state of Morelos. He has some traditional costume from a dance called Los Chinelos. And Los Chinelos is dancing. Most of the Mexican community has a group. They form a group where they have all of these young people and older people form this group, and so they go and dance in any event they're invited. I have pictures of them with the penacho, what I would call the headdresses. But in this case, I wanted to take a picture of actually being able to see the person. So I asked him if he could take his headdresses and I could take a picture of him. I still don't know the name of this person because when I started taking photographs, it didn't occur to me to ask for names or where they live. But even though if I did, people were reluctant to give it to me because most of the immigrant community are undocumented and they're always afraid that they might be deported. Next, please. This photograph I took also when I went to an event at church, and this doesn't look like it's a church, but these ladies, teenagers, were coming out of the church, and I was sitting on one of the benches, and I just went down onto the floor and I took this picture. It just occurred to me, it just came to me that I should take a picture. I didn't think about it. I just felt it and I just went into the floor and took it. They didn't even, some of them, they didn't even realize until they saw me on the floor. And I wanted to show that even as teenagers and even as they are Mexican, they want to be the same as everybody else. So they were dressing like any other teenager of that time, and whatever it was in fashion, that's what they were wearing. And I thought that was important to show. Next one, please. As I continue taking more photographs and taking photos of people, I had to make a deeper understanding of what was really happening in the community. For this photograph, initially I took a photograph of the lady in the back, which is the daughter of the lady in the front. And I met her on the street, and she was wearing what I call a rebozo, which is a very traditional shawl from Mexico. And the fact that I'm from Mexico myself made me see these things, which that's the reason why I approached La Señora Rita in the back, and I asked her, I don't see many rebozos much, but when I saw her, I asked her if I can take a photograph of her with her rebozo. Eventually I did, and then I started talking and getting to know her, and also in time I used to actually do a big event called the Day of the Dead celebration, which is I'll do it in the community for the community, and then I started gathering the community because I wanted to create community. So one of the way of me getting to know the people, I mean, I was doing this before I did photography. This I started in 1992, this festival. But the fact that I was photographing as well. And then I was starting inviting more people that I was photographing and getting involved into being able to celebrate with us and at least get together at least once a year through this festival, the Day of the Dead celebration, Dia de los Muertos, without being done by the church or any other organizations, but just to do it as a grassroots community event. And that's what I have been doing for 27 years. So after I met La Señora Rita, I decided to invite her and ask her, I asked her to do an ofrenda, an altar for the Day of the Dead. So I started getting to know her more. And eventually she invited me to her house and I met her mom, which she used to come from time to time all the way from Mexico to visit her family that are here, because their children cannot go to Mexico because they just cannot travel because they're undocumented. So the lady in front, La Señora Cipriana, she used to come every year. In this photograph, she was 83 years old, and she had children in New York, and she has children in North Carolina. So she will come here and then also will go to North Carolina to visit her other children. One of the other things that she also was asking me, what do I want to take pictures of her? And in Mexico, some people think that if you take a picture of them, you're taking their soul. So it was, I had to talk to her and her daughter and to encourage her to let me take the pictures. But as I got to know her a little bit more, and she's from the state of Michoacan, which I had been in the past when I was living in Mexico, I started talking to her about Michoacan and the places I've been and some of the things that we share in common from being Mexican and being in her state. She's wearing an apron, which is very characteristic of Mexican people. They usually wear aprons, and they're all handmade. And she made this apron herself. And so it was nice that she had the apron to be able, for me to be able to have it in the photograph. The other thing that I noticed is that the table has a plastic, and most of the people in Mexico, the tables, they put a plastic, especially people from the countryside. Also, they use they have cage bears and the high bears, and they had them here as well. So in this photograph, actually, she was able to trust me that I was really very close to her. This is like probably one of my closest photographs I taken. But I started from being very far apart, and then from the outside, and then continue going, taking pictures in and out as I meet people, as they feel they can trust me, as they know that I'm from Mexico as well, and also as it really helps a lot that I speak the same language and that I know something about where they're coming from. So this has been helping me to be able to take photographs of the Mexican community. But of course, not everybody will accept that I will take a photograph. But I had to develop a relationship. And some of them I haven't, some other photographs that are in the exhibit at the South Beach exhibit, there are people that I took pictures as I saw them. And then in time, I was asking some other people if they knew that people that I had taken a photograph of. And somehow, some of them, I was able to get their names and give them a photograph or talk to them about it. Okay.
Thank you so much, Irma. We are going to move to have everybody on stage so we can actually continue this conversation together. So if all of our panelists can come back to the stage and turn your videos on. Welcome back. Thank you so much to all of you for sharing so much about your process and about sort of the vision for your work. If anything, I think it has brought up even more of kind of the deeper connections between some of the ways that you're working and creating photography. And in particular, I'm really interested, just to start off our conversation, all three of you, I feel like, are connecting with the camera in some way. You know, Amanda, you talked a lot about like trying to sort of let people be their most natural selves and making that happen in front of the camera. Andy, you are approaching all sorts of strangers and starting up conversations with them with the camera, and really being brave in that way. And Irma is literally hopping over barriers to hop into the middle of a procession, you know, and I think in a lot of ways, you know, using the camera and making photographs is a leap a lot of times, right? We're leaping into sort of the unknown and trying to make a connection. So I wonder if all of you could maybe talk a little bit about how you interact with people with the camera, sort of how you create that connection, especially when it's a stranger or even when it's someone you know, but you want to make sure they're being their most natural self in front of the camera. So maybe we can start, Amanda, if you're willing to start us off, give us a little sense of how you connect with people.
The way that I connect with people is mostly through photography. So when I have my camera, I'm very open about like what I'm going to do in most cases. But when I'm with my friends and family, they know me, they know I'm always taking photos, and they just kind of expect it from me. They expect to be captured unexpectedly, essentially. And I just try to capture them in their most natural setting. I want to be able to tell their story.
And what about you, Andy? You approach so many people. I wonder how you do that, how you get comfortable just approaching strangers and starting up that conversation.
I just go up to them and I just ask them if I can take their photos, because I think I don't really mind talking to the people on the street, because I just feel like it's not something hard for me. I just ask them and they say yes, and also if people don't mind, like if people mind me taking their photos, I wouldn't try to force them anyway. Yeah.
And Irma, you have made these longer relationships with the community over time. I wonder maybe even what sort of has changed in your process as you've continued to see people, and like sort of, you spoke in that last image about how long it can take to sort of get someone comfortable with the idea of being photographed, and how much time you spend really getting to know them before that. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, when I approach people, mainly I'm trying to make conversation. If they speak Spanish, some of them actually speak indigenous languages in this community or in New York, well, all over the United States now. But so I'll try to talk to them in their own language, which is my own language, for the Mexican community. This makes them feel a little bit more trust me a little bit more because we have something in common. And then if I know, I'll ask them, I introduce myself and I ask them if they're, where they're from within Mexico. And if they're from a specific state, then I'll talk to them about what I know about that state, or dances, or any culture, or any art. And they're easier, they become more relaxed because we're sharing something in common. And then that's the way I approach mainly people. And sometimes I don't have my camera, I just talk to people. and sometimes I don't even take a picture, but maybe in another time. And sometimes I ask them if they having a party coming up or any event, and then I'll ask if I can have a phone number and I give them my information. Sometimes now that I have a website, which I never did for a long time, I tell them about the photos, and then they see that I'm using the photographs in a positive way, that I'm not going to put them in the internet, that I'm going to have it. I tell them that maybe if I get a good picture, I might have it in a gallery or in the community. And actually, I have been exhibiting in different places, like the library or the food pantry, not just galleries, because to me, it's important that they see themselves in the photographs, they feel part of the community, and not only themselves, but the larger community in Staten Island, where it can be very difficult because it's the most conservative borough. And so in this way, people can see who lives here, who are the neighbors, who are we sharing this place where we all live together, and make connections and make bridges to understand each other.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, that in fact the sharing of the images then can continue to create connection and continue to create community as well. Another thing that I really love about all of your work is, and many of you talked about this, sort of like you're very interested in taking things that maybe we see as very ordinary or sort of daily life, the mundane, and drawing attention to those things in a way to really highlight them and show us some of the beauty that's in those so-called ordinary moments. And I wonder, like, is there anything in the course of doing this work that you've shared? Is there something that surprised you when you were doing this work? Is there something you discovered that you didn't really realize before? And whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Well, one of the things that struck me was that even if I was talking to people in Spanish, and I will tell them that I'm from Mexico, they will think that I wasn't from Mexico. The thing is that most of the people that are in New York are coming from the countryside, but we are very diverse community. So that's one of the things that struck me the most. And I joke to them and I say, well, if I wasn't from Mexico, I would have been speaking Spanish as well as I do. But that was surprising to me.
One thing that I found surprised when I when I go to take my photos, I think it's a surprise for me that some people are like, some people don't mind me like taking their face and what they are doing, because I feel like some people might really mind me taking those photos, but in the end they are really nice people, and I think it's also I think it's also better for me because I'm because I be, be, be- because I speak their language. When I go to Flushing, they most people most people they speak Mandarin, so I just go there and it's better for me to talk to them and interact with them.
What surprised me the most is when I was taking photos, like especially during the pandemic, there was a lot of things around me, like in my immediate surroundings, like in my house or within my family, that were left unnoticed by me until I attempted to take photos. And it was almost shocking in a way that I hadn't noticed these very important things about these people around me, about my surroundings, until I really took the time to analyze what they were.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I actually want to make sure that we take a couple of questions. We have some audience questions as well. One that came in that I think is really interesting is from Lee Klonsky. Hi, Lee. And she's asking, is there anything that you connect to in your fellow panelists' work? So is there something you saw in the other work that was shared that was not your own that you think is really interesting or that you want to speak about? And that question is for anyone who wants to answer that.
Well,
Um,
I think, oh, go ahead, Amanda. Go ahead.
Thank you. I really connected with the message about maintaining one's culture, like whether it be artistically or just in everyday life, because I'm of Puerto Rican and Spanish background and I grow up in New York. I have this very diverse mix of cultures within my own family and within my group of friends. And it's very important to me to maintain the different cultures that I am so blessed to have.
Well, I have been so impressed with Amanda's work and Andy's work. These young new photographers that are coming into our communities, and I from the photos I saw, I'm very encouraged that they will continue and growing and growing their work in their communities. And as they'll do it, they will, their own communities will be more aware of their life and their culture and heritage and identity. And we're all here to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to throw you one more question, which is sort of forward looking. Jasmine is asking in our Q&A, what other things about your community you're curious to explore next? Sort of like, what can we maybe see from you in the future? What are you thinking about now?
I think for me, I might want to try I might want to try taking photos of people in the food shops, because there are so many people serving food, and there's many food in my culture. So I feel like maybe I can take photos of food and see just people working and because I really like food. I really want like eating food. So yeah, that's it for my ideas for now. Yeah.
That's a good part about photographing food is you usually get to eat some of it too. What about you, Amanda? What are you looking forward to?
I've kind of wanted to expand my photography past to just my family and my immediate group of friends, because I feel like I do need more practice as a photographer, photographing people on the street and being able to tell their stories without having spoken to them prior to that photo being taken. And I look forward to doing that in the future.
Awesome. And what about you, Irma? What are you working on now?
Well, sometimes I feel overwhelmed about all the work that I'm supposed to do and can do. But the fact that I have been working with film is hard for me because I had to scan, I had to do Photoshop. I don't do Photoshop, but eventually I keep saying I will. But it's just a lot to learn, and I will continue learning. But now that I see some of the photographs I have, and I see some, like these teenagers photographs that I took, I don't know them. I don't know who they are. I think about it, and I would like to see them. I would like to be able to see them, what's happening with them now. And some of the photographs I have children, and now they're in high school or maybe in college. And there's another interesting part that I would like to explore. Take photos of them in different stages of their life.
Well, I think I probably speak for all of us in saying we are all really excited to see that project in the future and all of the work that you all make in the future. Thank you so much again, Amanda, Andy, and Irma, for such a thoughtful and generative presentation and conversation about your work and the ways that you're using photography to explore and speak about your communities. We encourage everyone here again to go and see these incredible projects in person. You can go and check them out. And I've just really appreciated sharing this space with you today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jess. And thank you again to all of the panelists, to Irma, to Amanda, to Andy. I think I've been so impressed, I think, just by the curiosity and like the slowness and exploration that I hear in the way that all of you make your work and also speak about your work. I'm really excited to see that develop. And I also want to thank our teachers who have supported much of this work. Thank you so much to Caitlin Gibbons from Digital Tech High School, as well as Lee Klonsky from Eastside Community High School for helping to make Andy and Amanda's work possible and kind of fostering them along in their work. And I want to invite everyone in the audience to join us. Next week, we have 2 more youth exchange panels that will be similar to this one. On Wednesday, we have a panel that features artists whose work reaches into their family and cultural roots to really connect past, present, and future. And Saturday, we have a panel that features artists whose work looks inward towards their identities and their loved ones at home. So please go online, register for these programs. We hope that we will see you all there. And have a lovely, lovely rest of your Saturday afternoon, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.